Hello! So today we're going to look at range masks in Lightroom. Now I think that these are the most useful masking tools you can use out of arguably any piece of editing software. We're going to look at color range, we're going to look at luminance masks, and we're going to look at intersecting those as well. And between those three things you get such amazing results. So let's get into it on the screen and I'll show you from here. So first of all, we're going to start off with this image of Cornwall here. I'm going to get it towards the edit I've got below here, and I'll show you that in a bit. But first of all, we're going to start with this edit here. So obviously we can use all the other editing software, but we're just concentrating on range masks at the moment. So if I create a new range mask, the first thing I want to do is I want to concentrate on color range. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to choose an area. So I'm going to select color range and I'm choosing the area. Now color range is fabulous when you've got a defined color. So this image is deliberately a little bit washed out. And we're going to bring some of that colour back into the editing because it was a bright pinky orange amazing colour. So let's start. So I'm going to draw a little box here. The first thing I notice about this is it hasn't selected the whole of the cloud. By doing this it will fade back slightly oddly here and it won't look good. So the next thing we're going to do is this. I'm going to refine this, so I'm going to try and add more to it. Now as I do this, although it's working on the cloud nicely, you can also see it's picked up on the cliff and some of the sea has gone pink, confusingly double pink, but this is showing the colour mask has gone over this area. Now I don't want it on the cliff, I just want it on the cloud for now. I might be able to deal with the cliff later on, but for now I want it just on the cloud. So if you're refining it and you can't get that to happen, okay, so that is only bits of the cloud, this is all the clouds, but now I've got it on the cliff. This is a problem within colour range and luminance masks, and what you need to think is how do you get over it? And you get over it various ways you can do it, but I find intersect is really, really easy. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to intersect this mask. So intersect allows you to pick up on a particular area and only work on that area within color range. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to intersect it with luminance range. So I'm going to click on this area here, and what should happen is that you can see now that it's only working in the cloud area, it's not working everywhere else. So if I drag my luminance range out, it won't work in the sea and the cliffs anymore, which means I've selected that area actually using two masks. I'll show you luminance mask next when I crop into this composition. So now this will allow me to affect the exposure, and in this case I want to increase the temperature in this section. I also want to increase the colours in this section as well because the colours aren't quite there. So I'm going to do that now. So first of all, just going to dehaze those colours slightly. Oh, wrong way. Okay, just dehaze those colours a little bit. I'm going to add clarity to it, and I'm going to change the colours here. Okay, so I'm going to try and add a few more reds using this slider. I'm going to go for a kind of golden colour in this one. I might just change the hue slightly as well. Okay, now we're approaching where we need to be in terms of the colour of the clouds. I'm actually going to pop in a little bit more contrast as well, because there was an amazing amount of contrast in this cloud. It was really, really beautiful. I'm editing it slightly different to the other one I've edited, but we'll go from there. Okay, so I've now just edited that area. So I've used color range and I've used luminance range in combination. So just to make it clear, I took luminance range off the cliff so that I could then concentrate on just the color range in the clouds. Now, confusingly, I want to work on the cliff as well. I want to give it a bit more texture. So now I'm going to use luminance range. So for this one, I'm going to draw a box on the cliff, and this has done a pretty good job. So again, I can refine it. Now this box looks slightly different. To refine it, you can drag it, and as you can see, the mask changes. So I want it all the way to this side. I'm just going to see if I can get it off the houses as much as possible, and just on the cliff area there. So there we go, we've got some rocks in the foreground. Now I could intersect that with the brush tool, but I'm not too bothered. So this is a brilliant mask, and one that I use probably the most. Luminance range is just fantastic. So there's loads of detail in that cliff. So what I wanted to do is I just wanted to add a little bit of clarity in. So the mask will go away as soon as you start adding your desired change. So here we go. So there's no clarity. Got to be careful with clarity. It's best to use it on sections rather than the whole photograph, because it makes the photograph too harsh. So I'm just going to add a little bit of clarity there. Going to add a tiny bit of dehaze, tiny bit of texture, and then again I might just warm up those cliffs a little bit, just a small amount to get a little bit more detail in there. Now the other great thing about these tools is that I take multiple bracketed photographs quite often, but you don't always have to. You can use the dynamic range within the photo and use luminance mask and color range to change it. So I'm happy with that. That lifts the that lifts the cliffs a little bit. When you're using luminance range, it's really important to be careful with exposure, because otherwise you get something like this. It's hideous. So you can add a little bit of exposure, but I would only suggest a small amount, otherwise it completely changes the feel of the image. Okay, now with this image, there's just one thing left to do that I'd like to do to it, and that is to crop into the composition that I wanted. Now, the reason I wasn't really bothered about those rocks is I don't really want those rocks to be there. I'm actually probably not going to have any of this foreground because it doesn't bring any interest. What I'm really focusing on here are the clouds and the beauty and kind of drama of those clouds. So I think that's more or less my final edit. It needs more tweaking, but you can see there there's a much nicer colour in the sky, and there's much more detail in the cliffs here. So so that's how to use them on an environment like this. Okay. So let's think about a single subject. So this could be a portrait, it could be a wildlife photograph, it could be a close-up section of landscape like this. What we want to think about in this one is how you can combine the two. So, in terms of the subject in the foreground, and then everything going on in the background. So. For this one, I'm just going to click on Select Subject. Now, what it's going to do is it's going to try and select around the subject and leave everything else untouched. So it'll do its best at detecting, and what I want it to do is really just detect the rock in the center. So here we go. So we can see by the mask that it's also detected this bit here. Now, if I try and refine that, it doesn't make any difference. It keeps on collecting this area here. Okay, so the easiest thing to do is just bring that mask back to the center, because it selected this rock coming out of the sea well, but it's also selected this area. So as soon as I make changes, it will affect this area as well. So with this one, sorry, I need to be on the right one. I'm going to intersect this tool. And again, I'm going to intersect this tool with luminance range. And what's going to happen when I click on this area, it takes away from this area. Now it's doing that because the rock is darker than the sea. So this area of sea is now taken away, and you can see it's done a really, really good job of isolating this rock. So then what I can do is I can look at, for instance, I mean, I like using clarity in small areas, just have to be a little bit careful with it. But I'm just going to add a little bit more clarity and texture to that rock. I'm going to also, I'm also going to try and brighten up this rock a little bit, so you get a little bit of detail in the rock itself. Now, because the rock is so dark, it's not doing that much. It's only making very kind of fine adjustments. I'll try and increase the shadows if I can. When you take it too far, you can see what happens. You can only do so much with it. Okay, and there we go. I've just brightened up this side of the rock a little bit. Now, I can use, again, another range mask, so I can use color range on the sea itself. So if I have a look at this, it's deselected the rock now, and it's just working on the whole of the sea. Now I don't really need to refine this. You can refine here, but this has selected it really, really well, and quite often it does a really good job. So next thing is, I'm just going to put a little bit of clarity into this, this sea area, just to redefine some of those waves and structures. And I'm also going to dehaze that slightly as well. I'm also going to put a bit more contrast in as well. So just put a bit more contrast into the sea. And I'm going to take down the highlights slightly. Now, I'm not sure how this is going to look when I take the highlights right down, but we'll see how we go. So that's affected that area. And then again, I can crop in. Now, I don't always crop in last. I sometimes crop in at the start. Then what I'm looking for is I'm looking for a composition that has a bit more purity. That rock's kind of quite annoying. I'd like the corner to end in a wave, so the wave cuts diagonally through it. This rock is fine and intended to be there. This part of the wave, maybe I'll just take that end a little bit further. Takes out some of the highlights on the right hand side, and then we crop it. And there is my final image. So there we go. So luminance masks, color range mask, and intersecting with other tools. It's absolutely brilliant. There's much more you can do it. You can use a linear gradient, you can brush on to intersect with as well. But I just wanted to highlight two of my favorite and most used areas of Lightroom. So please like and subscribe, and I'll see you on the next video. Bye for now.